So, you see more electric vehicles around, right? And I think a big question for a lot of folks is, well, are they basically giant batteries just waiting to explode?
Yeah, exactly. You've probably seen maybe some worrying headlines or stories online. It's a natural concern.
Totally. So today, let's try and sort through that. Our mission here is to look at the info we have and really separate the fact from the fiction when it comes to EV battery fires, especially here in North America.
Absolutely. We're going to dive into some common myths people hear and also, importantly, some safety guidelines based on what we've seen.
Good stuff. Okay, so first big one, this idea that EVs just catch fire way more often than regular gasoline cars.
Right, and what's really interesting is that the actual numbers, they tell a very different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, the National Fire Protection Association, they track this stuff, and they report something like over 170,000 fires involving gasoline vehicles every single year in the U.S.
Whoa, 170,000, that's a lot.
It is, and when you compare that to the number of fires involving EVs, it's significantly lower. Statistically speaking, your standard gas car is actually, well, more likely to have a fire incident.
Huh. Why is that, do you think?
It likely comes down to how the energy is stored and managed. Gasoline is inherently volatile. EV batteries, while containing a lot of energy, store it in a, let's say, more controlled way.
Okay, that's surprising. Definitely turns that myth on its head. What about the other one I hear that EVs can just sort of spontaneously burst into flames, sitting there parked, maybe?
Yes, the spontaneous combustion idea. That really touches on the technology inside these batteries. Modern EVs mostly use lithium-ion batteries, right? And they aren't just simple batteries. They have these really quite sophisticated battery management systems, BMS, built right in.
BMS. Okay, what do those do?
Think of them as like a very smart bodyguard for the battery. They're constantly monitoring things, temperature, the voltage, the current flowing in and out.
All the vitals, basically.
Exactly. And if any of those readings go outside safe limits, the system can react. It can cut power, adjust things, basically take steps to prevent problems, including conditions that could lead to a fire.
So it's not just a dumb box of chemicals. There are active safety systems running all the time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Built-in safeguards.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
But let's say, worst case, a fire does happen.
Yeah.
Maybe after a bad crash or something. The impression lots of people have is that these EV fires are, impossible to put out.
That's another point where there's some truth, but also some misunderstanding. It is true that EV battery fires can be challenging, especially if they get into what's called thermal runaway.
Thermal runaway sounds bad.
It is. It's basically a chain reaction where the battery heats up very rapidly and uncontrollably, and that can feed the fire. They can burn hotter and sometimes longer than a typical gasoline fire.
So harder to fight.
They can be, yes, but unextinguishable isn't really accurate. Firefighters are getting specialized training now. They understand how these fires behave differently. And they're using new tools, too, like special fire suppression blankets designed to contain EV battery fires.
Oh, interesting. So tactics are evolving with the technology.
Exactly. It's a different challenge, but it's one that emergency responders are actively learning how to manage effectively. It's definitely not an impossible situation.
That's reassuring to hear. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about the rare case where an EV is in a crash. Our sources laid out a kind of life-saving flowchart. Seems really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. While fires themselves are rare, knowing the right steps after any serious accident is crucial, especially with an EV involved. So first step, and this is universal, assess the situation for injuries. Anyone hurt? That's always priority number one.
Right, safety first. Okay, assuming you're able, what's next?
Power down the vehicle if you can. There's usually a button or procedure. This helps minimize electrical hazards after the impact, things like short circuits.
Power down.
Okay.
Makes sense. Then get out.
Yes. Calmly but quickly. Exit the vehicle. And then move to a safe distance. The guideline is generally at least 100 feet away from the car.
100 feet. Okay, give it some space. And then, presumably, call for help.
Immediately. Call 911 or your local emergency number, and critically tell the dispatcher that an electric vehicle is involved.
Why is that detail so important?
Because it lets the incoming responders, fire, police, ambulance, know what they're dealing with right from the start. They might need different equipment or approach the scene slightly differently.
Got it. Inform them it's an EV. What else?
If it's safe to do so, try to warn other people away from the vehicle. Keep bystanders back, and this is really important. Do not try to extinguish the fire yourself.
Right. Leave it to the professionals.
Absolutely. They have the training and the gear. You trying to fight an electrical fire, especially a potential battery fire, without the right stuff is incredibly dangerous.
Okay, so quick recap. Check injuries, power down, get out, move 100 feet away, call 911 and say it's an EV, warn others if safe, and definitely don't play firefighter.
That's a really good summary of the key steps.
It feels like practical advice. And it's good to remember, like we talked about, these fires get a lot of attention, but statistically, they're still quite uncommon compared to gasoline car fires. Hopefully, this discussion gives you, our listener, a clearer picture and maybe helps you feel a bit safer about EVs overall.
Yeah, and it's kind of fascinating when you think about it. EVs have all these advanced systems specifically designed to manage the risks of the battery technology. It makes you wonder, what other technologies are all around us, constantly evolving with hidden safety features, managing potential risks we don't even really think about day to day? It's this continuous background process of innovation, just trying to keep things safe.